A functional exercise, or FX, sometimes also referred as command post exercise, is a fully simulated interactive exercise that tests the capability of an organization or entity to respond to a simulated event. The exercise tests multiple functions of the organization's operational plan. It's a coordinated response to a situation in a time-pressured, realistic simulation. Functional exercises are typically used to test coordination and communication systems and often involve testing emergency operations centers or facilities with a clear operational role, for instance dispatch centers or hotline call centers, without moving outside these facilities in a substantial way. The purpose of an FX is to test or validate the response capability of a set of functions or departments in an organization. Its emphasis is on coordination, integration, and interaction of an organization's policies, procedures, roles, and responsibilities before, during, or after the simulated event. An FX can be used to test the interoperability of the systems, procedures, and plans currently in place. It can be used to identify achievements, challenges, gaps, and opportunities for strengthening. An FX will enhance the capacity of the operational system to respond to the next emergency. Members of coordination groups, as defined in the Emergency Operations Center or Emergency Operations Plans, should participate in a functional exercise. Functional exercises are typically undertaken where actual functions take place. For instance, a test of an emergency operations center should be undertaken in the relevant emergency operations center, or where people would gather and work during a real emergency. This enables participants to become familiar with the layout and resources available during an actual response. Staff will perform their actual job roles and will conduct all emergency response operations from their actual stations, often using real tools and resources, such as radios, telephones, and computers. They will usually communicate with other participants that are remote from the operations center or with the simulated response cell so that the entire exercise is kept in a controlled, closed environment. The participants will feel like they're managing a real emergency from their own operational centers. A functional exercise is interactive and simulates an incident in the most realistic manner possible, without deploying resources on the ground. It uses the normal communication systems in place, including email, fax, telephone, or virtual meeting conferences. As such, it requires less capacity than a full-scale exercise, but more than drills and tabletop exercises. To allow for an effective conduct of the exercise in a closed, controlled environment, the exercise management team will stage and manage the exercise in an exercise control room. This is a dedicated space, separate, but often in close proximity from the exercise participants. All exercise communication will be coming from this space, where all in- and outgoing communication is gathered, tracked, and managed. Often, a master scenario events list is used to ensure the exercise flows smoothly and is in line with the exercise purpose and scope. This list is a chronological timeline of expected actions and scripted events to be injected into exercise play by facilitators or controllers to generate or prompt a specific response. It ensures that necessary events happen so that all exercise objectives can be met. The master scenario events list can make use of time jump between injects to cover each of the emergency management phases that are part of the scope and objectives of the exercise. In addition, often a response cell is included in the exercise control room that is manned by one or more exercise facilitators. This cell simulates injects by making phone calls, sending emails, or communicating by any other mean, and responding accordingly. Actors or role players with scripted roles to play can be used to provide realism through direct interaction with the participants. Actors can have an important role in delivering information or interacting with participants. For instance, they may act as minister or other high-level government representatives, or as members of the media asking tough questions. Because a functional exercise looks at operations in more depth, engaging the participants in more real-world activities is important. On the other hand, actors can also be used to represent stakeholders who may not be able to participate in the exercise, such as senior leadership or specific partners. In that instance, the use of actors allows you to maintain realism while keeping the exercise within a controlled environment. Actors will have carefully crafted scripts and will be well briefed. When selecting actors, it's important to have someone who has experience in the simulated event, for instance, a person who has some real experience with senior government officials, or a person with media training. If the exercise controller decides it's necessary to redirect the exercise to keep it on track, the actors or response cell can be used to deliver the necessary ad hoc injects. An FX is often seen as a 2-month project. The actual conduct of an FX ranges from 4 to 8 hours up to multiple days, as dictated by resources and objectives. This includes the exercise's debrief. Simulation exercises often aim to replicate emergency situations with varying degrees of realism. The exercise management team is responsible for the safety of all involved in the exercise. It's essential that this team manages actual and potential health, safety, security, and environmental risks. When working in certain contexts, and depending on the venue or participant's profile, a security risk assessment may be needed to ensure a safe exercise environment. The nature of a given risk could require that the exercise is adapted and measures are put in place to manage the risk. It could mean that the activity is moved to a safer venue, postponed or cancelled. For an FX, the team includes, at a minimum, an exercise director, an exercise controller, a lead facilitator, and an exercise evaluator. The exercise director develops the main concept and design of the exercise. This person defines the project plan and the tasks required to build and implement the exercise. This plan needs to take into account all the exercise details and available resources. The exercise controller ensures that the exercise runs smoothly and achieves its stated purpose and objectives while staying in a controlled environment within the exercise's scope. Before the exercise evolves beyond its intended scope, the exercise controller should intervene, either by delivering ad hoc injects to close loops or redirect the participants, or by adjusting the timing of the injects. The lead facilitator, or the simulation cell, delivers injects to the participants as directed by the exercise controller. They will work closely with the exercise controller and, if required, will adjust the timing and delivery of the injects to ensure the exercise remains on track. In the normal course of their duties in an emergency response, participants might consult with international agencies or other groups who are not participating in the exercise. If a participant needs information from such a non-participating entity, he or she contacts the simulation cell or the lead facilitator to simulate the required consultation and obtain the necessary information. This function calls for a high level of understanding of both the plan being validated and the kind of responses that the non-participating people and agencies would provide. The lead evaluator develops the evaluation strategy, coordinates the tasks of other evaluators, and works closely with the facilitator and the exercise director. They lead the debriefs and produce the first draft of the exercise report. Finally, Observers only observe the exercise, but may submit their observations as part of the evaluation process. Although they do not have an official role in the conduct of the exercise, they can have valuable insights. Observers will not intervene during the exercise, but may be asked to provide their input during the debriefing session. Debriefing sessions are an essential part of the exercise and should be allocated sufficient time. Each exercise ends with an immediate debrief, also known as hot wash. This debrief is a facilitated process, often conducted by the lead evaluator or facilitator. The focus of this first debrief is to allow everybody an opportunity to provide initial feedback when the exercise is still fresh in participants' minds. It also gives them an opportunity to bring together their thoughts before the formal debrief and to relax from the often stressful environment of the exercise. If required, it can be done simultaneously in multiple locations by different members of the facilitation team. The hot wash does not include evaluation of the exercise outcomes, nor does it go into the level of detail planned for the main exercise debrief. The main exercise debrief aims to review the objectives of the exercise with the participants. The aim of the debriefing is not to evaluate individual performance during the exercise, but rather to reflect on their experience during the exercise. As such, it helps to identify strengths, challenges, and critical gaps in plans, procedures, and equipment in their emergency preparedness and response system. This can be done through various techniques, such as world cafes or plenary and group-based identification of key achievements, gaps, and recommendations. The aim and methodology of the debrief will be defined by the exercise objectives in the planning stage. Ideally, the exercise debrief includes a way forward or action planning process with clear and concrete actions to improve response capacity. After debriefing with the participants, the exercise management team should have a separate debriefing session. This reflects on the exercise planning and implementation, as well as to confirm responsibilities and timelines for completion of the exercise report. This informal discussion is often led by the exercise director, lead facilitator, or exercise controller. It's aimed at identifying lessons and opportunities for similar future projects. An initial meeting to report back to leadership or senior management is recommended. The purpose of this meeting is to share the initial findings of the exercise, including challenges, achievements, and recommendations. Other goals may include gaining senior management support for the proposed recommendations or the action plan.